Looking forever young was the affliction of the people of Blake Alexander's race. He, like all his people, aged normally like humans till the age of 25, but they stopped aging. Then it caused great frustration for him, a true millennial time traveler born 60 years ago, but at age 40 he was stuck 1,000 years in the past. He died only to come back to life, unlike his other people who live long too, but only till they die normally. Eternal youth he saw as a curse, not a blessing. He walked one day on a crime scene as his alter ego, the magician superhero, and the local coroner, Blue Midnight, regaled in a blue magician's outfit with a mask to be greeted. "It's the boy wonder from an ignorant human policeman." "I'm not a boy anything," moaned Blake in reply, pushing past the ignorant man. He walked up to a young-looking man in red, dressed like him, but with red hair, not black hair like Blake. "Hello, Uncle Si," Blake said to the man in red, who was the commanding officer there, Sergeant Simon Alexander Drax. "Hi, Midnight," said Simon. "Ignore him, he's just a human." Simon knew how Blake felt. Later that day, Blake, whose night job was that of a famous stage magician and illusionist, had a publicity photo shoot for the show with his partner in the act and best friend Max Starfire, another of Blake's race. Max was enjoying the photo shoot. Blake, on the other hand, felt awkward. "Lighten up, Blake," Max said, noticing Blake wasn't happy. "They are treating us like kids and are making us look like a boy band. It is so wrong," said Blake, posing on his own for an elegant, heroic anime-style shot. "Stop talking, boy, you're ruining the shot," complained the photographer. "Boy," huffed Blake and looked moody. "Perfect pose, hold," said the photographer who took a photo. Blake dropped his coat, which he was holding up while posing, showing his leg and the red lining of the black long coat he wore. "How'd it look?" Blake asked. "Like Tuxedo Mask unmasked," said Max. "You sure you aren't a superhero in disguise?" Blake glared at Max. He knew Blake's secret. Max was one too. Blake stormed off. The cameraman went crazy taking photos of the handsome young magician Blake. Later that day, Blake was pulled over by the police when he was in his car on the way to his job as a coroner stationed at the local hospital. Blake asked, "What do you want, officer?" The officer replied, "I think you know." "Oh," Blake said, looking for his driver's license. "Hang on, I got to find my license. It's in here somewhere." The policeman frowned and shook his head in disbelief that Blake had a license. Blake smiled and pulled out the license from his card-filled wallet, handing it to the policeman. The officer took it, read it, and laughed. Blake exclaimed, "What? This is the worst fake license I've seen yet," said the policeman. "It's not fake," snapped Blake. "You aren't 60, said the policeman. Blake looked awkward. "I just look young," said Blake. "You won't believe how many times I've been told that." The policeman asked seriously, "How old are you really?" "You won't believe me if I told you," Blake said. "I'll have to take you in," said the policeman. "Okay," said Blake, frustrated. Blake walked into the police station feeling like a fool. The policeman said, "Come with me, don't worry, we'll call your parents." Blake heard a voice he recognized behind him. He cheered up and turned around. "Uncle Si!" Blake called out to the man joyfully. The policeman asked, "What, do you see your uncle?" "What is his name, Cyrus?" Simon walked up to them. "Oh, hello, Blake. Why are you here?" Simon said. Blake replied, "No, Uncle Simon, I was pulled over again because I look too young to drive." The policeman asked, "You know him?" Simon said, "Yes, he's my grandnephew, Dr. Blake Alexander, the local coroner." "Coroner," said the policeman nervously. Simon laughed. "He's one of your people," said the policeman nervously. "Yes," said Simon. "He's the oldest driver on the road. He's over 1,000. Oh, sorry, sir. Doctor, I thought... Well, you look. I'm sorry," said the policeman. Blake asked, "Am I needed? I'm late for work." "No," said Simon. "I'll deal with it, Blake." Blake asked, "Can I have my license back?" The policeman gave Blake back his license, ashamed, and knew he was in a lot of trouble. Blake said bye and teleported back to his car. Later at the hospital where Blake worked, Blake wandered into the entrance and a security guard noted he was flustered, as a person late for work usually is. The guard walked up to him. The guard asked, "Are you all right?" Blake replied, "I'm late." The guard asked, "Is your granddad or grandma dying?" "Don't worry, I'll take you to them, boy." "No, I'm late for work. I'm the coroner," grumbled Blake. "I didn't recognize you without your glasses, Dr. Death," said the guard, who knew him as a grouch in glasses and a lab coat. Blake wasn't in either. He was in a grey tweed suit. Blake was known as Dr. Death, as a coroner there. Blake left the guard and ran to the elevator to the morgue. Later, Blake went to a new pub with his wife who he worked with in the morgue for lunch. They ordered pub lunches and got them. Blake made a mistake. He walked to the drinks bar and asked for a beer. The barman looked at the license, and Blake and his wife, who was one of his race too, kept his license and told him and his wife to go back to school and leave. Blake got his uncle to get his license back later, but Simon needed to call in some older-looking policeman to prove he wasn't a teenage friend of Blake's posing as a policeman.